In times of war or uncertainty, there is a special breed of warrior ready to answer our nation's call. A common man with uncommon desire to succeed. Forged by adversity, he stands alongside America's finest special operations forces to serve his country and the American people and to protect their way of life. Honor, courage, commitment. The United States Navy SEALs are an elite force of men trained to fight in the most brutal of circumstances. They are taught to be unstoppable, to battle until death, and most importantly, never, ever leave a man behind. This kind of teamwork and commitment to country is what makes a SEAL who they are. On the moonless rainy night of June 27, 2005, Lieutenant Michael Patrick Murphy, Matthew Axelson, Danny Dietz, and Marcus Luttrell dropped from a helicopter into the Hindu Kush Mountains on the northeast border of Afghanistan. Armed with heavy artillery and extra magazines, the men set off into the darkness. Their mission, to kill or capture Ahmad Shah, a high-ranking Taliban leader with ties to Osama bin Laden. Operation Red Wing was underway. There was no predicting what would come in the next 5 days. The bloodshed and injury would be horrific. The heartbreak and loss, unimaginable. These 4 men endured the atrocities of war from the front line of battle. These men were Navy SEALs, and they knew there was nothing to do but to fight until the end. No matter the sacrifice, no matter the situation, they would fight. Marcus Luttrell survived as the lone survivor of Operation Red Wing and is here today to share with you what happened. He tells his story for his brothers in arms that lost their lives. He tells his story so that their service will never be forgotten. Please welcome to the stage retired Navy SEAL and author of the New York Times #1 best-selling book, Lone Survivor, Marcus Luttrell.
All right, thanks. Have a seat. Right. Thanks for having me, guys. I promise I won't keep y'all long. I remember what it was like to sit in auditoriums like this, listen to somebody talk, so I know you're ready to get the hell out of here. So, are there women? Yeah, there's a woman in the audience. All right, so I'm going to watch my profanity. I'll get up here, talk a little bit about myself, what I did for a living. We'll talk about Red Wing, and then I'll kind of jive it back and forth with what y'all do and with what we do in the SEAL teams. Sound good? If there's any questions while I'm going along, man, just raise your hand. Don't hesitate. Just raise it up there and ask a question, and I'll answer it. If it's a stupid question, I'll give you a stupid answer. All right? So just think about that before you throw it up here. Just like most of you guys, I'm sure you started training for football, playing football when you were at a very young age, right? I mean, almost everybody in here. Y'all are elite athletes, otherwise you wouldn't be playing for this university. Well, in my family, it's customary for all the men to serve in the military, all right? Generations back, all the way back, past the Civil War, you name it. We had all the men in our family served in the military. You didn't have to serve in any particular branch of the military, you just had to give service. My father would always say, before you exploit this country, you're going to serve her in some form or fashion. You know, as a kid, I didn't have any understanding of what that meant. You know, as a grown man, I absolutely know what that means now. So when I was about 14 years old, I have an identical twin brother. He's a Navy SEAL as well. He's in Afghanistan right now on his 11th deployment, still putting foot to ass for God and country. So he should be back around, I think, December, if God willing, if he lives through it. So he came, I was down in the barn doing some chores. He came running down there, and he was like, man, I don't know what we're going to do. We're going to be Navy SEALs. And I didn't have any idea what that was. And for those of you who don't know, SEAL actually stands for Sea, Air, and Land Specialists. Okay, we're the Special Forces Division of the Navy. Army has the Green Berets and the Rangers. Marines have MARSOF. Air Force has PJs and comptrollers. Navy has the Navy SEALs. All right. He was like, it's going to be great, man. We could jump out of airplanes, shoot guns, blow stuff up, scuba dive, and there's a 65% chance we're going to die. And I was like, all right, man, sign me up. Because my brother and I, we have a couple of sayings. Like I said, we're identical twins. One of them is from the womb to the tomb. We came into this world together, we're going to leave it together. And the other one is if you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much space. So we run that ragged edge just about as hard and as fast as we possibly can. Well, down the way from us was a guy who trained people to go into the Special Forces, all right? He's a Vietnam veteran. And from those of you from small towns, you can appreciate this. This guy's name was Billy Sheldon. He was our town's psychopath. I mean, like literal psychopath. I mean, I don't think the sheriff let him live inside city limits because he was a nut. He was the kind of guy you'd see in the supermarket yelling at the bread and the Cheetos and crap like that. You know what I mean? Just talking to himself and all the voices in his head. Yeah. Well, he trained people to go into the Special Forces, starting at a very young age all the way until it was time to leave when you were 18 years old. 18 years old, when we were 18, we were grown men. 18 years old, you were a grown-ass man. You're not on mama's breast anymore, so you're grown, all right? Well, we went over there and asked him to train us. He said he would. And I remember we caught him during dinner time. He answered the door, had a piece of fried chicken in his hand. And he was like, what do you want? And I was like, we want to be Navy SEALs. We heard you train people to do that. We were wondering if you would train us. And he looked over my shoulder at some of my buddies. It was like 4:30 in the morning. He slammed the door in our face. We backed out of there. The next day we come running up at 4:30. I mean, hauling the mail, trying to get there. And as we got to his yard, he stopped us in the street. He's like, stop right there. And he drew a line in the dirt in front of us. He's like, every day you come here, I'm going to draw a line in front of you and ask you to cross it. Being in the Special Forces is a voluntary program. You can quit anytime you want. You can quit right now. Quit while I'm training you. Quit while you're going through SEAL training. As a Navy SEAL in combat, you don't want to do that job anymore, you raise your hand, you say, I'm done, I'm out, and it's over. And that's the truth. He said, you cross this line, I'm going to do everything I can to break you. I'm going to beat you mentally, physically, and emotionally. You're going to bleed here. He's like, I ain't your mama. I don't care whether you live or die. He said, when a man goes to war, his brain turns to water and runs out of his ears, and all he has to go on is instinct and the guy to the right and to the left of him. He's like, you want some of this, boy? Cross the line. And at 14, you know, you think you're pretty much invincible. I know I did. So we crossed the line. He's like, all right, everybody on your faces, give me 300 push-ups for being late. And that's not a lot of push-ups, but if you got some guys who aren't in shape, you're going to be paying a man. And this was my first life lesson with Billy. This is the first thing he ever told me, and it stands true to this very day. If someone tells you to be somewhere at a certain time, you're always 15 minutes early. That's what on time is, not at 4:30. If you're that person that always comes bebopping in the door at 4:30, then you're actually the weakest link in the chain. You're a cancer. You're going to get somebody killed in my community, in this community, man, you're going to lose. And that's just the way it is. I remember we started pushing the deck, man. He was just like, start banging them out. We started pushing them out. We got to about 200 or something. Eventually, one guy was going down, one guy was going up, and Billy's like, stop what you're doing. A team goes down together, a team comes up together. You live together, you die together. You're not a damn team. Start over. We started over. We started pushing the deck again. We get to about 100 and something. Eventually, one guy was going down, one guy was coming up. He's like, what'd I say? Stop what you're doing. I said, you go down together, you come up together. You live together, you die together. You're not a team. Start over. We start over, start pushing the deck again. About 3 hours go by. We're trying to bang these push-ups out. Eventually, we get to about 1 or 2. We're doing the chicken neck, you know, or the one-arm dip, or the mountain climber, and all that crap like that. And he got so disgusted with us, man. You know, he was cussing us for everything we were worth, throwing stuff at us, kicking us, hitting us with the hose and whatnot. Eventually, he got so disgusted with us, he's like, stop, man, just stop. He's like, leave, go home. And when you get home, tell your parents to start over because they screwed up on you. He's like, you want to do this again, make sure you show, if you want to show up on time. Don't ever waste my time. It's the most important thing I got. He's like, there's one certainty in life, and that's that you're going to die. Everybody in this room is going to die. You might as well accept it. And once you do accept it, you'd be amazed at the life you could live. He's like, show up again tomorrow. Don't ever be late again. And I did. I showed up the next day at 4:30, and I was never late again from the time I was 14 years old to the time I finished college. And as I grew from a boy into a young man into an adult, like I said, when I was 18 years old, I was a grown man. And as my body changed and I got stronger both mentally and physically, the workouts and everything he would do to us changed as well. And I remember one of the last workouts he was doing with us, he had us running down the freeway. We were carrying a telephone pole, and we dropped it on this kid's head and split his head open. He rolled down the ditch. And we set the log down and went down there to go pick him up. And Billy would follow us in his vehicle. He got out, he was screaming at us and cussing at us, made us drop down. We were banging out the push-ups and sit-ups and all that stuff like that. He was throwing stuff at us. We were supposed to keep the log up, go down there, pick that joker up, throw him up over our shoulder, and then get out of there with him, not put the log down. Finally, he just said, stop what you're doing, man. He's like, sit down. He's like, I'm going to tell you something that I ain't never told you before. I'm going to tell you why I do the things that I do to you, all right? He's like, I purposely sit up at night and think of sadistic things to do to you, all right? He's like, I throw things at you that I know you can't pass. He's like, you're a human being. You ain't the Hulk. That's what he'd always tell us. You ain't the Hulk. He's like, you bleed just like everybody else. I'm just waiting to see when I hit you, no matter how hard I hit you, if I knock you senseless, stupid, or if I knock you completely out. If you get up and come at me with everything you got, or if you quit. Because if you quit right here, you'll be a quitter for the rest of your life. You might as well go home and brush your teeth with a pistol. That's what he tells us, 14 years old. He's like, if you get up and you come at me with everything you got, like a rampaging beast, just throw everything to the side and just completely come at me, one of two things is going to happen. You're either going to pass what I'm throwing at you, or you're going to die trying. And if you're dead, who cares anyways, right? So, with that being said, I took everything he taught me, all the knowledge he taught me, and I left and I joined the military. I joined the Navy. And for those of you who don't know, Navy means never again volunteer yourself. Because when I got into the Navy, I was just like, I wanted to be in the SEAL teams. I knew at a young age that I was born and bred to be a gunfighter. That's all I wanted to do, man. I wanted to carry a rifle, go into combat, and engage, period. And I had to pass a series of tests to qualify to go to a school to become a Navy SEAL. And that school is called BUDS training. It stands for Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL Training. Any man and every man on this planet who's a Navy SEAL has to go through this schoolhouse. It's in sunny Coronado, California. All right? I'm sure there's some people out in the audience who know some SEALs. You know, your buddy's a SEAL, guy got a job because he's a SEAL or whatever. If he didn't go to school out there in Coronado, he's lying to you. You know, fire him, whip his ass, or burn his house down, or call one of us. We'll take care of it, because there's nothing I hate more than a phony. Somebody claims false valor, man. That's just the weakest stuff. Don't even get me started. But anyways, I showed up out there. Now, BUDS training is 3 phases long. First phase, second phase, and third phase. All right. First phase is 11 weeks. Second phase is 10 weeks. And third phase is 12 weeks. When I showed up to BUDS, day 1, week 1, minute 1, there was 164 men in my BUDS class from all walks of life. City boys, country boys, collegiate athletes, professional athletes, doctors, lawyers, accountants, Wall Street guys. My brother had a Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey balloon clown in his BUDS class. All right. So I mean, anybody and everybody from all walks of life who want to beat on their chest to prove to themselves they're somebody, kind of show up here. So when I showed up there day 1, week 1, minute 1 with 164 men, that's when we started. And when we walked across that stage to get our diploma, probably almost a year later, there was 10 men left. My brother had 254 men in his BUDS class, and when he walked across stage to get his diploma, there were 16 guys left. Does that kind of give you an idea of the attrition rate? From the time we start BUDS to the time we finish, to kind of give you a little insight on how it works. But from day 1, week 1, minute 1 to the time we graduate, you run over 2,500 miles. You swim over 200 miles. You have, when we do scuba and we go in and do all that kind of stuff like that, you got over 200 hours of bottom time, 200 hours underwater. All right. By the time we get done with third phase, we've expended over 1,347 rounds of ammunition. And this is all in our basic course. Okay? And then after we get done with that, after we graduate, we go into follow-on training and we go into our SEAL teams with. From the time I started training to the time I got to my SEAL team was 3 years. All right? And then when I got to my SEAL team, I was a new guy. All right, but I thought I was somebody. You know, I thought I was beating on my chest. I thought I was big and bad. Because let me tell you something. When this may sound ridiculous, but when I graduated high school, when I was 18 years old, I was 5'6", 154 pounds. All right. When I got out of SEAL teams, I was 6'5", 270. So it was one of those kind of deals where I remember showing up back to my high school and my college, and my coach was like, "Jesus Christ, what the hell happened to you?" And I was like, "Yeah, I know, right?" After being shot, 2 or 3 times and fragged and broken pretty much every bone in my body, I wish I would have played football. But anyways, I got into my SEAL team and then I deployed. Irregardless if there's a war on or not, there's idiots everywhere that we got to go kill. So SEALs are doing something all the time. And the wars kicked off when I got in. I went to Afghanistan, I went to Iraq, and I went to a few other places that we just won't even talk about right now, just engaging. Wasn't married, no kids. I was just married to that lifestyle. All I cared about was carrying that rifle and getting into the mix. All right. In 2005, I got on the hook for Afghanistan. Now my brother was already over there, I remember talking to him about it. I was like, hey, man, what's Afghanistan like? He's like, it's the Wild West, dude. He's like, you want to know what it's like to live and fight 2,000 years ago? Come out here. And I was like, I'm on my way, man. Save me some. You know, I didn't want him. I was jacked up about it. I landed in Afghanistan, saw my brother for about 5 minutes. He's like, don't go easy if it goes down. I was like, I won't. And then he left, and I hit the ground running. Now, my primary mission set when I was in Afghanistan was I was on a special reconnaissance team. And basically what that means is a 4-man element, 4 men at all times. And they would slip us in under the cover of darkness. We'd either free fall out of an airplane, fast rope out of a helicopter, going on horseback, Humvee, or foot patrol. And foot patrol in for anywhere 15, 20 miles. And sit on a target in a village. Find a village out there, we're looking for one guy. Usually one guy, head of the snake, and watch him anywhere from 6 to 10 days. And all we do is sit there and gain intel, take video, take notes, and whatever. And then at the end of that, we got the green light. We'd either kill him, or we go down there and snatch him out of there and I'd interrogate him. And whatever I got out of him, I'd go do something else. And that's how the ball rolled. And we were doing that for about 3 months when Red Wing came down the pipe. Basic gist on that was we were going after a high-ranking individual in what used to be bin Laden's army. His name was Ahmad Shah. He'd killed probably over 40 or 50 American soldiers, and who knows how many coalition forces. And the conventional forces have been chasing this joker for about 2 years, and finally they slipped him across our desk. They're like, hey, you guys take care of this joker. We're like, all right, roger that. So, just like with anything, you know, we prepped up, got ready for just like you guys do when you're getting ready for a game, man. You know who you're going after, everybody's weakness. Everybody in here knows who you're going against, right? And that's the way it's set up. I hate talking football about it. I mean, I love football, don't get me wrong, but I'm ignorant when it comes to the nuts and bolts of it. But I would imagine it's something like this. Each one of you guys knows your opponent. Each one of those guys knows their weakness and their strength. Well, that's the same thing that we do. We study them and study them and study them. Every little detail comes into play. And then we rehearse it over and over again, just like you guys do. Just practice and practice and practice. And then when time comes, when they flash the light at us, then we go get them. And the only way we lose is if we're dead. That's it, plain and simple. There is no we didn't finish or we didn't get it done. They beat us because we ran out of time. That doesn't fly with us. That's not how it works. Because if you think about it, I know a lot of people in here. I mean, there's guys in here who are natural athletes. We have that too in the SEAL teams. Absolutely gifted at everything they do. Then we have those guys who aren't. All they have to put out like 10 men and just go after it with everything they got just to prove to themselves that they're worthy to be on that team. And it never stops. It's ongoing all the time. The minute you stop doing that is the minute you don't need to be there anymore. The minute you come in and say, hey, you know, I'm going to kind of rest a little bit, I'm going to jack back a little bit, I'm not going to lift as heavy or as hard, I'm not going to run as fast, then you really don't deserve to be there. Kind of like this dude sleeping back over here. Yeah, I got your ass, boy. Don't be looking around like you wasn't sleeping. I'm just messing with you. Don't get scared, man. I don't have a gun on me. But just like with anything else, man, it's just the way it's the way it works. I mean, you study it, and in our community, I mean, the stuff that we go through, the training that we go through to become a SEAL. All right, more people die in our training than they do in combat. That's a little hidden gem we keep from the American public. All right, but once we get into our team, once we become a SEAL and into our SEAL teams, it's actually harder to stay a SEAL than it is to become one. Because you can go in and do something great for a year, and then show up one day and do something bad. Show up late, don't put out as hard as you should, and that's what they're going to remember you for. And I'm sure it's the same way with you guys. One guy screws up or whatever it is, you know, everybody in the back of your head, you always remember that. You always remember that one guy who comes in late, the one guy who doesn't put out as hard as he should. And it's usually the natural athletes. Those are they got that natural talent. They don't have to put out as hard, so they kind of get lax. You don't need them guys, man. That's bad. If you're a natural athlete, you need to show it. All right? In our community, I'll put it to you like this. I'm going to backtrack a little bit. As a new guy, when I came into the SEAL teams, the first time I walked in the door, I was like, hey, you know what? Marcus Luttrell, checking on board. And my chief walked up to me and he goes, guess what, new guy? He goes, you got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. He goes, you shut your effing mouth and open your ears and listen to everything we say. Don't say a damn word until I tell you you can. And that was about 2 years later. All right? You're the first one here and you're the last one to leave. You understand me? I was like, roger that. And the senior guy, in here, who are the rooks in here? I'm talking about y'all, all right? The 2 ears and 1 mouth, show up first and leave last, that's y'all. The senior man in there, who's the senior man? Yeah, you police these guys. All right, y'all are the first ones here and the last ones to leave as well. All right, they look up to y'all. You run the team. Anything goes wrong, it's on you. All right, it doesn't roll downhill, it rolls straight to you. It's your problem. You settle it. The way it works for us, when we do our training, when we're in there doing in the kill house or whatever it is we're doing, and something goes wrong or somebody gets laxed, because everything, just like y'all, is on film. Eyes are on us all times. It's not like, oh, hey man, you'll get it next time. It's like, hey, you screwed up. Don't do that again. You're going to get somebody killed, or we're going to lose. Put out. All right, how hard is it? How hard is it to put out for however long you're in there? It's not. It's just being weak or lazy. And you don't need that crap. You know what I'm saying? I mean, not everybody's earned their spot to be here. You need to keep it. And the only way to keep it is to put out 100% all the time. You absolutely work until you die or something breaks on you. And if that's maybe a sick way of looking at it, man, but if you want to actually be the best at everything, that's the way it works. Nothing else. That's the way it works. We got hooked up for Operation Red Wing. I remember when the ramp dropped on the back of that helicopter to push us out of the back, man, I had never seen it so black. It was a piece of Afghanistan that we had never been in before. We were 80 feet off the ground looking for a rope this big around to slide on the back of a helicopter. Finally got to the rope, hit the ground. They dropped us in a snowbank at 9,700 plus feet, and the helo left. A team consisted of our point man. His name was Matt Axelson. I'll refer to him as Axe. Okay? He was from Chico, California. Probably about 6'2", 210, curly blonde hair, blue eyes, looked like a surfer. You know, he's one of those guys who never said anything. I mean, he would literally go days without saying something. He'd sit there and listen to you do all the talking so he could realize how stupid you were. But when he did open his mouth and he did say something, you needed to listen because it had some kind of bearing on what you were doing. All right? With that being said, though, man, when he put his gear on, he grabbed his rifle. He was probably the most lethal man I'd ever met in my entire life. He was our point man. Behind him was a guy by the name of Mike Murphy. I'll refer to him as Murph or Mikey. Mikey was my best friend in the SEAL teams, all right? He was our officer in charge. He was our lead man, okay? Behind him was a guy by the name of Danny Dietz. He was our communicator. He was our link to the world. If anything went wrong, we needed to check in, whatever it was, that was Danny's job. He carried the radio. And I was rear security and the team leader. I was the biggest and the slowest, so they stuck me in the back. You know, you're only as fast as your slowest man kind of deal. Well, that's the way it was, especially in the mountains. So where they dropped us and where we needed to go was only 4 kilometers. That was it. We cut right through the middle of the mountain. It took us 8.5 hours to do that. That's how bad the terrain was. You got on your belly right now and started crawling, you clear 4 miles in under 8 hours. That kind of give you an idea of what we were dealing with. We got to our objective. I'm going to paint you a picture. Imagine standing at the base of a mountain, looking at the belly of it, all right? If there's any kind of formations coming off that mountain, those are called fingers in the military, all right? When 2 mountains come together and they touch, that area in between the 2 mountains, that's called a draw. Everybody picking up what I'm throwing down? All right, welcome to the military. See, it's not that hard. Well, what happened was we came up on top of the mountain, about 10,000 feet elevation. All that shale rock, all that nastiness. There was a finger pushing off the right side about 800 meters long and about 100 meters over the back side of it. Started walking down it, looked off the left side of it, and about 7,500 meters below us was our village. Imagine a volcano in your head with a bunch of beehives stuck in it. Hypothetically, that's what a village in Afghanistan looks like. It's just stuck right there in the side of the mountain. Has been for thousands of years. It's the craziest thing you ever seen. Well, right underneath us there was a grove of trees that stretched about 150 meters down the mountain and about 300 meters wide. After that, it turned into grass for about 100 meters, and then the 2 ridge lines bowed together. They swung back out, finished out the bowl, and our village was set down in there. We rappelled down into those trees and kind of set up shop. Sun had come up, nothing was going on, no Ahmad Shah. He had his own militia at his disposal. They weren't there. There were some women screaming, a mule bellowing, and some kids crying. Well, Mikey and Axe left to find a different spot because we couldn't see all the houses in the village. They came back about 45 minutes later, like, hey, we got a spot, let's boogie. So we got up. Top of the mountain was probably 25, 30 meters above my head. Crawled up it, got up on there, started walking down that finger, all 800 meters of it. And then it just dropped off. There's a big stump right here. It was all burned up, hollowed out. We think we're in a logging area because most of the bigger trees have been chopped up and cultivated. There's a bunch of bushes and some boulders. Axe, he was our primary sniper. It was his job to eliminate the threat. Well, the tree that came from the stump was laying right beside it, and it was all burned up and hollowed out as well. I was his spotter and the secondary sniper. I laid down next to it parallel and cocked my chest around, wedged myself underneath it, rolled my rifle up, and I could see everything. Mikey got to my left about 50 meters in some rocks. I couldn't see him anymore, and Danny got behind me about 30 meters, and I remember he had the only piece of shade on the mountain, which is a big deal because during the daytime it was about 120 degrees. At night it wasn't bad. It was 5 to -3 because it would rain and snow on us. So the biggest thing we had to contend with was the temp change. I remember asking Danny, I was like, hey man, you want to switch? I couldn't see him, but I was radioing. I was like, hey, you want to switch? And he just raised his hand and shot me the finger. And I was like, yeah, all right, check, got you, bro. Well, all of a sudden, a pair of little brown legs jumped over the muzzle of my gun. And let me tell you something, man, it got my attention fast. I mean, I didn't hear this guy, I didn't see him, and the biggest thing was I didn't smell him. Most of the time when we get over there, our senses are so heightened that we pick stuff up that we normally wouldn't. And that's one of them. But it rained every night on us, so all I could smell was burnt, wet wood. Well, I was trying to wiggle my way out from underneath that log. I was a lot bigger back then. I was stuck. And as I came up with my rifle to engage, he turned around and looked at me, and he had an axe in his hand. And I scared him just as bad as he scared me. Well, what's your natural reaction after somebody scares you? You get mad at them, right? That's the same thing that happened to me, man. I was like, hey, bro, you just brought a knife to a gunfight. So I jumped over that log, flipped him down, subdued him, took that axe away, stuck it in that tree. He had a big, long beard. Somebody has one of those and you want to get their attention, grab them by it. They'll tell you whatever you want to know. I rolled my fist up in his beard and drug him over that log and drug him into the shade to where Danny was. I was like, get out of the way, man. I'm going to interrogate this guy. In the beginning, I was trying to tell this joker that I wasn't going to kill him. I was like, look, man, I ain't going to jack you up. But you can bet most SEALs, we don't pay attention in language class because we don't go over there to talk to anybody. I don't give a damn what language you speak. Everybody understands what this means. If you ain't on the ground by the time my rifle comes back up, you know, I'm gonna put a big ass hole right in your chest. So, most of the stuff we learn is to scare them. I mean, the nicknames they have for us are the killers with the painted arms and stuff like, you know, everybody's sleeved up and tattooed and everything like that because we'll paint our faces up like, I mean, just the most nastiest gargoyle. Wear vampire teeth and cat eye contacts. So when they run across us, man, they think they've seen a demon. And that's what happened when he saw me because I was dressed up just like that. And like I said, most of the stuff we learn is to scare them. Basically what happens is we'll look on the internet for some phrases, or our interpreters when we get in the country will walk up to us and be like, hey, what do you want to learn how to say? I'm like, teach me how to say, Allah sent me and there ain't no way in hell you're getting out of this. You know, stuff like that. Because, I was trying to tell him, though, that I wasn't going to kill him. I was like, look, man, I ain't going to kill you, dude. And about 3 minutes later, axe whistled up. He's like, there's 2 more. There's another adult male. He was somewhere between the ages of 20 and 90. I don't have any idea how old they are. And a kid. And this kid was probably 12 to 14 years old. Now, those jokers are lethal. You turn your back on a 12-year-old boy over there, he'll cut your head off and play soccer with it. And I use that analogy because I've seen it happen. So we zip-tied him, sat him down on the log. Now, all the mountains in Afghanistan that they came up on, they had to come up on the one we were sitting on. In their world, you know, that's inshallah. God willed that. In our world, it's Murphy's Law, bad luck, whatever you want to call it. We ran through every scenario we possibly could think of to deal with the threat. You know, we got Ahmad Shah down here, been chasing him for 2 years. Our nearest help's 2 hours away. Probably an extra 45 minutes with a rotor spin up on the helicopter. So we turned him around to execute him quietly. And about that time when we did that, 75 or 80 goats came bebopping up the mountain. Changed the whole dynamic of the mission. You know, I'm just standing there and literally a goat walked right between my legs. I looked down, I saw the goat trail there, and they don't wait on those shepherds. They go back down to the village, and they show up in the village, and the shepherds aren't with them. The whole village backtracks, armed, to make sure nothing bad happened to them. And then here we are. You know, so we ran through every scenario we could possibly think of. Some other stuff came into play. Eventually, we had to cut them loose. And we cut them loose, they were gone in a shot. I mean, a shot. It took them 15 minutes to get out of our line of sight. 15 minutes. It took us over an hour to climb up the same hill. That's how fast they are. And they did it in their hands behind their back and a pair of flip-flops. You know, and we're not in bad shape. These guys can move up there. So we relocated back into those trees, kind of set up in a triangle formation. I was at the very top. Top of the mountain was 30 meters above me. Axe was on my right flank, 12 feet below me. Danny was over here 12 feet, and Mikey was moving lateral back and forth. Now we had to break out our shovels and use our boots and actually make shelves to stand in because we were leaning against the mountain. And we wanted to watch the target, we'd lean off the mountain and grab a tree, pull up our camera, binos, whatever it was, do our business, and when we were done, we'd lean back. And that's how we were set up. It's the only place we could get in. I pulled my cap down over my eyes to get some sleep, so I don't know how much time went by, but I hear Mikey signaling. And I kind of look underneath my cap, and then I could smell him. The smell hit me in the face like a bat. And I was like, all right, roger that. My rifle was right here. I cradled it, and I just rolled my head up like this. And the first guy I saw had an RPG on each shoulder and an AK-47, and there was probably 30 or 40 guys standing above us, all lined up, postured up, looking down into us. And coming down each ridge was a dozen or so guys, pushing down, surrounding us. Well, right above me was a big tree. I mean, real big. I couldn't put my arms around it. Well, all of a sudden, a guy peeked around it with a rifle, had his head in a shroud and everything like that. Threw my weapon on fire. He pulled back around. I looked underneath my armpit at Mikey. I was like, get on the clock. We're fixing to get it on. And then I turned back around. Out of my peripheral, I could see all these guys moving. You could hear them screaming and yelling and all that crap. But I just held on that tree and waited. And as soon as that guy pulled his head around that tree again, I turned his head into a salad bowl. And when that happened, it unleashed hell on our left flank. Small arms fire, no RPGs, no mortars or anything like that, all belt-fed stuff. But I mean, I've been in a lot of gunfights and nothing like that. I mean, it was so loud. I was screaming at the top of my lungs at Mikey. He was right underneath me. He couldn't understand a word I was saying. Well, I was dug in real good. I don't ever look at my watch in a gunfight, so I don't know how much time went by. But they were steadily coming over the mountain, and we would just stack them up. And eventually, I had 3 or 4 little trees right beside my head. Well, those rounds coming over me, and then underneath me into the dirt, and then those trees started taking some rounds. And eventually, one of those rounds busted through the tree and shot me in my weapon. And when I leaned off the mountain, I rolled my rifle over, and luckily it hit me in my magazine and not actually in my weapon system. When I went to drop that mag and load another one, I looked at Mikey. He was giving me the signal to fall back. Well, I had my pack that I was carrying, I had it wrapped around my calf. And when I reached down to grab it, that shelf that I had made broke, just crumbled, fell apart. It's like somebody opened up a trap door underneath me, and I just fell right out of it. And I don't know what my foot hit, a rock or a tree root, but it stopped me dead track. As soon as my chest came up over my hips, I started flipping, and I was out of control. And when I hit Mikey, I was upside down and backwards. My feet came up over his shoulders, and I hit him. I mean, just full blast, all 270 plus pounds of me, and knocked him off. And we both started pinballing in those trees. And I always thought, you see in the movies guys rolling down a hill, you're like, hey, moron, reach out and grab something, stop yourself. Well, I thought I was a pretty strong guy, I reached out to try and grab a tree or something to stop myself, and it would just rip it out of my hand and flip me in a different direction. So we actually pinballed and ragdolled through those trees for 150 meters. And when we broke through the tree line, I remember Mikey was in front of me. I did 3 to 4 flips because it got real bright. We were in the broad daylight, no cover, no nothing. 3 or 4 flips with my legs extended. And then we hit that grass area. It was actually boulders and trees, and the grass had just grown up in between it. And when we hit that, it stopped us dead track. I landed on my back and broke my back in multiple places. Mikey landed on his face, completely crushed his face. Well, that's when they unloaded on us with the RPGs and the mortars. We had no cover, no nothing. It was broad daylight. Well, we sat up, he sat up, and we started making our way, but it was like running an obstacle course through those rocks and trees. And we did that for over 100 meters. And then there was 2 big logs laying across each other. We flipped into those, turned back around, reloaded, and engaged. Coming down our left flank, Axe was running down towards us, and he got shot in the back. Came out his left rib, dropped him right on his face. I didn't see him for a while until he crawled into those trees. And he had a whole bunch of blood coming out of his mouth, so I knew I was the medic. So I knew he had been shot in the lung. Again, he never said one word, just reloaded his weapon, turned back around and engaged the 3 or 4 guys that were actually chasing him down the mountain. Well, Danny was still up where we had come from in the trees. And all of a sudden you see his body flip out of those trees and hit the rocks, and we thought he was dead. Well, we don't leave anybody behind. We all made a movement to go get him. Well, he sat up. So we came back down to give him some cover fire, and he started making his way through those rocks and trees and fell short. I crawled out, grabbed him by the back of his harness. I drug him back and I bellied him, and we flipped into those trees. And when I sat him up, I was trying to ask him, I was like, hey man, did you get a radio call off to somebody? Does anybody know what's going on out here? But it was so loud, and he was right here in front of me. He couldn't understand a word I was saying. Finally, he just lifted his hand up like this, and his thumb had been shot off. It was actually hanging right here, but I was like, okay. And I pushed his rifle into his chest. I was like, you got to fight. And he turned around, I turned around, and all four of us started to engage. Well, by this time, they had pushed past us on the ridge. And every time we tried to push up to the high ground, they controlled it. They would consolidate on us and push us back down into that hole. Well, the only place we had to go was off of this boulder we were on. And it was the biggest fall we took. It was probably 35, 40 feet. And there was another ridge sticking out, and there was a bunch of shrubs and bushes and all kinds of stuff stuck in there. We Hail Married into that and just started breaking through it and landed. When we hit the ground, we landed on top of each other and got stuck, just pancaked because of our gear. And they just started throwing rounds down in there. And everybody got hit. Danny got shot in the throat and underneath the clavicle. I got shot in the back. Mikey got shot in the belly. And Axe got shot in the shoulder. Well, we untangled ourselves and made our way out into the draw that I was telling you about where the mountains reached. And we just fanned out and started pushing down the mountain. And in the beginning, the gunfight lasted for well over 3 hours. In the beginning, if you were locked up somewhere and you weren't falling, you were fighting, and ineffective gunfire came into your direction, well, natural reaction is you'd move because obviously somebody's seen you. And then you just start to fall. Towards the end of the gunfight, if you were somewhere where you weren't falling, you would not leave that area until you got shot because the fall was worse. Every time you fell, you broke something. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's the way it was. About an hour and a half into the gun battle, I was dragging Danny. I'd throw him off stuff. Both his femurs were broken. He had a compound fracture on one of his tib fibs. He'd been shot 3 to 4 times that I know of. Well, I would throw him off stuff. I'd catch up with him. I'd drag him. I actually picked him up and tried to fire him and carry him 3 or 4 times, but I'd fall. And most of the time I'd fall on top of him. And I remember one of the last times I did that, he grabbed me by my harness and pulled me as close as he possibly could, and he was like, please don't do that again. You know, because I'm probably sure I did more damage to him than the militia did, as heavy as I was landing on top of him. I was like, all right. Well, we got to an area. I had him by the back of his harness. He was firing outside the canyon like this, and it's kind of difficult to explain, but there was a way we could jump off. It was probably 5 to 6 feet, hit this area and slide around. But it was also a dead drop of over 200 feet. So we had to be real cautious the way we did this. So I picked him up. I was like, hey, I'm going to take the brunt of this fall. All right, bro? And when I pick you up, I'm going to turn around, and when we hit the ground, you reach out and grab for everything you possibly can. Just weeds, sticks, rocks, whatever it is to keep us from falling off that dead drop. And he was like, okay, bro, I got you, man, I got you. So I picked him up like this, and as soon as I spun him around, I spun him right into a bullet that 100% in my mind had my name on it. And it hit him right in the back of the head. Killed him right then and there. And I wasn't ready for his dead weight. I had my arms locked up underneath his shoulders, and when he got killed, he just collapsed into my arms. And when he did that, he fell underneath me, and it flipped me forward. And I face planted into this rock and broke my nose, actually shoved it through my face, and then I bit my tongue in half and I swallowed it. And that totally incapacitated me, man. I mean, I was on all fours trying to get that thing out of there. Finally, I threw it up. I bit down on it so I wouldn't swallow it again. I turned back up, see where Danny was. I could just see his shoulder. There was a lot of blood. And came up, made my way up to him. Some stuff happened. I got shot out of there. I caught up with Mikey. And he was like, where's Danny? I was like, he's dead. Well, we don't leave anybody behind, so we made a movement to go get him. But the only problem was, once you fell a certain distance, you couldn't get back up the way you came. It was too steep. If you crawled up 2 feet, you'd fall down 6 to 12. It was one of the most frustrating things that we had ever dealt with in pretty much my whole career. So we had no choice. We had to get out of there. I was on the left side of the canyon wall. I was firing laterally at a cluster of guys with an RPG team, and I don't know how he got there. I don't remember seeing him walk in there or if I passed him, but Axe came out from behind this rock that I was positioned up on. I almost shot him. He walked right past me, and the whole side of the mountain was on fire by now. And he sat down Indian style and leaned against my hip. And I was elbowing him. I was like, man, you got to get your gun up, man. You got to fight. And this is the first time he said anything to me that didn't have anything to do with tactics. He's like, I'm sorry, bro. He's like, I can't help you anymore, man. I'm blind. He's like, they shot me in the face. And I turned around and looked at him, and they'd shot him right here in the head. And tell you the truth, I mean, I'm not a doctor, but I've studied combat medicine for a long time. And I don't even know how he was talking to me. The only thing I could recognize on him was his bottom lip. That's the only thing that looked human. And he just kept saying, he's like, I'm sorry, man. I can't help you, bro. I'm sorry. And I was like, just get out of here, man. I'll cover you. Just start walking. And I turned myself in front of him to give him some cover fire. Well, above me, Mikey was out on this huge boulder. No cover, no nothing. Had his rifle slung behind his back. He had our satellite phone out, calling for reinforcements. I forgot he had that. And then all of a sudden, he took 2 rounds through the chest and belly, spun him like a top, fell right on his face. And then you could see him sitting up with his rifle, and they shot him in the back because he fell forward. And this really bothered me. I mean, I lost Danny, and plus Mikey was my best friend, and I was pretty confident that Axe wasn't going to live through the day. Well, I tried to make my way up to him. And I was doing everything I can. I slung my rifle, wasn't firing or engaging or anything. I was just clawing my way up. And I couldn't get up to him. It's too steep. I was probably 45, 50 meters underneath him. And he sat up, and I came out in the open and was waving my arms. I was like, just come down here to me, bro, and I'll carry you out of here. I was like, just come down here to me, man. I got you. And he didn't see me. And he went left. He lateraled left and went behind this rock embankment. And I could hear his gun go off. And I could hear massive amounts of gunfire going in there. And then he started screaming for help. He's like, I need help up here. I need help. And man, I was like a maniac trying to climb up those rocks. It was so frustrating. I climb up and slide back down. I just couldn't get to him, man. And then he started screaming my name. He was like, Marcus, you got to help me. You got to help me. And he started screaming my name. I've never heard anybody scream like this. Man, woman, or beast. Nothing that loud. And I could hear it over all the gunfire, all the mortars, all the RPGs. I could hear him screaming my name. And I was actually leaning against this rock. I was sitting on my boots. I was trying to reload my weapon. And he started screaming my name. It was so terrible that I actually put my weapon down over the top of my legs and covered my ears because I couldn't stand to hear him die. Which makes me a coward. That's a cowardice act. You put your weapon down in a gunfight, you're a coward. But, they say every man has his breaking point. Well, in the SEAL teams, the only way you break us is to kill us. But I broke right there. I couldn't stand to hear my best friend die. And then killed him. I never saw him again for the rest of my life. I got shot. By this time, they had come up from the village. They had us in a 360-degree pin. No matter where we went, you couldn't stop. You couldn't set up anywhere. You couldn't rest anywhere. You had to move the whole time. I caught up with Axe. There was this rock overhang, 2 logs leaning against it. There was a stream running around it, a bunch of gravel and whatnot. I crawled underneath there with him. He had taken one of his abdominal dressings for an abdominal wound and pulled his face back together. And I crawled in there. I was looking at him face to face, and I said, we're going to die. And we're going to die right now. And about that time, an RPG hit behind him and blew him on top of me. And everything just went white. I mean, I'd been fragged by RPGs before and everything like that, but nothing that violent. Because the water and gravel, all that stuff came in there along with that frag. And when I sat up, I pushed him off of me to figure out what was going on. I had no idea. Another one hit and blew us out of there. All the overpressure came into that little cave we were in and shot him one way and blew me another. And I never saw him again for the rest of my life. When I came to, I was paralyzed from the waist down. I was laid over the backside of this rock. All my kit was gone. My pants were ripped off of me. GPS, maps, med gear, all that stuff was completely gone. So I just rolled over, threw my rifle in the creases of my elbows, and started spiking my elbows in the ground and pulling myself along. And I would take sand and dirt and start sticking it into all the wounds. I had 11 through and throughs in my legs, in my quads, and my calves. I had frag hanging out everywhere. I'd been shot. My back was broken in multiple places. My pelvis, my shoulder had been torn out. And then, of course, all my maxillofacial damage. And I just started putting dirt and sand and everything in there to keep me from bleeding to death. And I crawled into this crevice, and I buried myself in a shallow grave. And I didn't move 1 inch for the rest of the day, not 1 inch. And I could hear the militia they came down off the mountain finally, off the high ground. And I could hear them celebrating and doing to our bodies what they do to us when they get a hold of us. It's completely different than what we do. You can guarantee that. And it lasted for the whole day. And then paranoia started setting in. I was like, well, what if one of them was alive and they're torturing him? And I couldn't get to him. And all I could hear was them celebrating. And that's all I could think about. And you're going to talk about torture, man. Just sitting there knowing that one of your buddies is getting it and you can't do nothing about it. That's the most helpless feeling in the world, when one of your teammates is down and you're not there for him. Because the only reason you shouldn't be there for your teammate is if you're dead. And I was still alive. I was just paralyzed. As the sun was going down, I could start to feel my toes a little bit. So I got on my scope, I went to clear my area to make sure there was nobody over there. And I saw something glistening on the other side of the canyon wall. There was a guy leaning against a rock. He had a silver AK-47. Sun was pinging off of it. I shot at him 2 times, and on the third time I hit him in the guts, and he fell. He had 2 buddies with him. I didn't see them either. They came running over and hit on my side of the rock, facing the same direction. I had a suppressor on my weapon. I was dug in. They had no idea where it came from. And I shot those 2 guys in the back, and they fell to their death. You're not normally really supposed to shoot people in the back, but screw them. I had a bad day, so they got it like they got it. So, man, I got up, dude, and I started crawling. The sun was down. It was pitch black. I just started crawling. It's impossible for me to get into everything that happened to me that night. I knocked myself out from falls 5 times. Rendered myself unconscious 5 times. And everybody always asks me what kept me going. My friends, my family, my teammates, my faith, all that. Yeah, all that kept me going. I never thought one time that my team was dead. I never dwelled on the fact that something bad had happened. That's how we get set back. When something bad happens to us, it goes right over it. That's it. It's gone. You can't do anything about it. You line back up and you go at it like nothing ever happened, and you push forward. As snipers, the number one thing we tell each other as snipers is once you send that bullet down range, you can never get it back. And if you miss your target, well then you missed. No, it's gone. It's over. You lock another one in there and you go after it again. You don't even think about that, because you think about the negative stuff, that's what slows you down. That's what cripples you. I never thought about that, ever. I just kept going. And I was so thirsty, I was dying. I was bleeding to death and I was dehydrated and whatnot. And I was so thirsty that I was doing everything I could do to get water. I was digging in the ground, I was breaking branches. I'd work up a good sweat in my sock. I'd pull it off, I'd urinate in it. I pulled out my knife, I busted a clot in my leg, I bled into it. I'd wring that out in my mouth. Nothing would quench my thirst, nothing. And it was a thirst that I can't even begin to explain. It was insanity, because I was willing to kill anything or anybody to get water. I walked into a couple of empty houses thinking there was going to be families in there, and they were going to die just so I could get water. As the sun was coming up, I was holding on to this tree. I was reaching down to grab another one, and I got shot in the back. And I don't know if these guys have been chasing me all night or if they found me that morning, but let me tell you something. My adrenaline wasn't up, and I wasn't really ready for it. I don't know how you get ready for getting shot, but I mean, let me tell you something. It hurt, man. It felt like somebody hit me with a truck and caught me on fire. It turned me into a gainer. I rolled down this hill about 50 feet, landed on my face. Nothing worked from my chest down. When I rolled over, I grabbed my rifle. I looked up, man, where I'd come from. There was a guy screaming at me and pointing at me. And 2 guys with machine guns, AK-47s, were just laying lead on me as hard as fast as they could. The only thing I could do was throw my rifle in the creases of my elbows again and just start spiking my way. I would just pull myself up the mountain. And I would toss myself off the back side of it. That's how I was faster than they were. I was like, hey man, something breaks, whatever. We'll deal with the pain later. Just go. And that's what I did. And eventually I crawled into this rock embankment. It was like 18-wheelers stood up on the trail. It was huge. And I managed to crawl up in there and I spun around. I dropped the bipod on my gun. I rolled my sniper rifle over and I waited. And that spotter, he was chasing me hilltop for hilltop. I let him walk right into me. Closer for me to this guy right here. I shot him right in the throat. And these other 2 jokers, their high ground turned into my level ground. I had 2 frags left. I sent a frag out, and that was the end of that. Well, I was in bad shape, man. I was dying. Nothing worked, like I said, from my chest down. I didn't know what to do. But I wasn't going to lay down there and quit. You know, I never quit anything, man. Mission wasn't over. I was still alive. So I reached out and I grabbed a rock. I reached out as far as I could, and I drew a line in the dirt. I was like, I'm going to crawl to that till my feet hit it. And if I'm still alive, I'm going to do it again. And that's what I did. crawl to it, my feet would hit it, draw another line, crawl to it, feet would hit it. I'd fall down the back side of the hill, crawl back up, draw another line, I crawl to it. I did that for 7 miles, and I found a waterfall, managed to get to the top of it. I tried to slide down into the river, and I just took off. And I was so weak, when I tried to stop myself, it flipped me upside down. I did a header. I took flight, landed in the river, my head hit a boulder, split my skull open, my knees hit me in the face at the same time, knocked me out again. I rolled down the river. When I came to, I was laid over the backside of this dirt mound. I rolled up, and all I wanted was water. And then I was like, man, you can die then. I just kept telling myself, I was so thirsty that, because I know I'm going to hell for some of the stuff that I've done for God and country. And that's okay, man. That's fine with me, because that's the way I was made, and I enjoyed every minute of it. But I was like, man, we're getting some water before we make the long trek down. And I rolled up, and I got 2 sips out of this waterfall, and some guy started screaming at me again, and 2 guys with guns were maneuvering around trying to get the high ground on me. And this was the first time that I ever got mad. I got pissed off. And I slung my rifle, and I tried to stand up. I was like, enough is enough. I was like, come down here, because I'm going to kill you with my bare hands. I'm going to beat you to death. No more knives, no more grenades, no more guns. Just come down here, because I'm literally going to beat you to death. And when I tried to stand up to show a sign of aggression, my legs didn't work, and I fell. Rolled off down the side of this freaking hill, and when I came up, they could see me, and I couldn't see them. I rolled around on one guy to engage. He's stuck behind this tree. And right behind me, about 30 feet, this guy came over this ledge. Afghani. Started screaming at me, American, American. And I swung around on him. I was on my knee, had my gun at my hip. Safety was off, tension out of my trigger. I could have shot him from my hip. That's how close he was. I mean, I could see his eyes and the crap in his teeth. And to this day, I don't know why I didn't kill him. He actually came to visit me a couple years ago, and he actually came to visit me. He's here now. I picked him up from the airport 2 days ago. He came to see me again. And we always talk about this moment. And I was like, I don't know why I didn't kill you, man. He's like, I don't know why I let you live. And I was like, it's a good point. But I was like, he started walking up at me. He was like, okay, American, okay. And he lifted up his man jammies to show me he didn't have a weapon. He was like, shampoo, hydrate. I was like, shampoo. I don't need a damn hair wash, but if you got some water, Jack, I'll take it. So all of a sudden, the guys that were chasing me came around the rocks with their weapons. I was like, what the heck is going on here, man? Well, they picked me up. 4 guys, 4 of those villagers had to pick me up, carry me down into the village, gave me all the water I could drink. And they pulled me into this room, and they stripped me naked. And they started doctoring me up, bandaged me up from head to toe, and they dressed me up in a set of those man jammies. I was laying in this room for about an hour, and they had left, and I was in there by myself. The door kicked open, and the Taliban and Al-Qaeda flooded the room. I knew immediately who they were. You hunt something long enough, you know what it is when it's staring you in the face. You know what I mean? So I sat up, and I don't really talk about this. You can use your imagination. I mean, it is what it is. Torture is torture, you know. We learn at a young age in the SEAL teams, man, our bodies are machines. You can break it all you want, it can get fixed. But when we flip that switch, man, there's nothing that can affect us mentally. And then when it's all over with, we flip it back off. That's the reason we can do the things that we do. I just flip the switch, man, let them go to work. And they did. They went to work on me. They had me all day, all night into the next morning. And they left the room to negotiate for my head with the village elder. They wanted to come down there and they wanted to cut my head off. And the door kicked open, these villagers came in. I rolled over, I was laying on the ground. I was busted up real bad, I was bleeding real bad. I was like, they coming to cut my head off? He's like, yeah. And I was like, well, tell them to come on. I was like, my fun meter was pegged, man. It was in the red, you know, I had enough. 3 more guys came in there, picked me up, carried me out of that room, carried me down the side of the mountain and stuck me in this hole. Head first. Left me there for 27 hours. And that was rough, man. I didn't have a weapon. I was isolated. Sun had come up, you know, stuff blowing up, stuff, kids crying, bullets flying. I was like, man, this sucks. And they came and got me out of there, and for the next 4.5 days, they strategically moved me around that village. The Taliban had encircled it. They'd put me in a room, 15 minutes later, a bullet would zip through the wall, or the wall would blow up. Those villagers would come in there, pick me up, carry me somewhere else. I didn't know this. It's a custom, tradition, thousands of years old. You wander in there, Even if they don't like you and ask for water, they'll give you water. Food, they'll give you food, shelter, whatever. I asked for safety. They would sacrifice the whole village to keep me alive, just because they said they would. Honor code. That's what a real man does. A real man keeps his word. I don't know, the last days second to last day I was in there, this big storm hit. Huge storm. And I was sitting in a room with 3 or 4 of these guys, and you learn a language real fast when your life depends on it. I mean, not that I spoke very good Pashto and they didn't speak hardly to no English. But I remember looking at one of them and I was like, hey man, I'm sorry for some of the stuff that I've done to your people. I was like, this is the reason why I'm not a hero. I'm so far from it, it's not even funny. Matter of fact, if you knew half the stuff I've done, you'd want me in prison. But I wear a flag on my shoulder, so that makes it all right. And I was like, man, I'm sorry for some of the things I've done out here. I didn't know there was any good people. Furthermore, I didn't care. I kind of adopted your mentality. One American screws up, you blame all of us. Well, guess what? You had a couple of idiots drop some towers in one of my cities, and I took that real personal. So when I went out there, I remember right after 9/11 happened, after towers, I was somewhere, there was a bunch of military guys, and this lady went to me and gave me a picture of her daughter. And she didn't know what I was, she didn't know what I did. I mean, I don't look like I was in the military. I had a beard, long, shaggy hair, you know. She just handed it to me. She was handing them out to everybody. And when she handed it to me, all she said was, make this right. So on the back of it, I wrote, no mercy. And I laminated it. And I would carry it in my pocket. And before I went out on any operation, any direct action, sniper, whatever it was, I'd dress up, jock up all my gear, helmet, everything, face painted up, vampire teeth, my rifle, everything. I'd pull her picture out, and I would stare at her and imagine her dying. She was on one of the top floors. I'd imagine the building falling on top of her and her bones breaking, her catching on fire and her skin burning off, blood coming out of everywhere, screaming for God and for her children, and no one coming to help. And I would work myself into such a rage that when I went out there, when I finally put a bullet into you, that was the nicest thing I did to you. And I just remember sitting in that village, man, I was like, I'm sorry for some of the stuff I've done to you. I didn't care. And he just looked at me and he was like, war is hell. That's what he told me. I was like, yeah, it is. Next day, I was down in this riverbed, and the Army, Green Berets and Rangers found me. You believe that? Got rescued by the damn Army as a Navy SEAL? I can never live that one down. But anyways, they came in that morning and got me. That was July 3rd. My boots landed on American base, 4th of July. That night, the helicopter came in to get me out of there. Everything I just told you fails in comparison to how crazy that rescue was to get me out of there. That helo came in to crash to get me out of there. If that helo would have crabbed right to the left, to the right 3 feet, it would have rolled off the side of the mountain. If it went left 1.5 feet, it would have killed all of us. He dumped it right in the middle. Doesn't even know how he does it. Even if you ask him to this day, he's like, I came in to crash. Well, we dumped off the mountain, went back to Bagram Air Force Base, landed. They took me to a debriefing room before I went to the hospital, and I was like, what's this all about? Well, the rest of my platoon came in on another helicopter after Mikey called that sat phone call in, and when it went to land, a 12-year-old boy shot an RPG into the back of it, blew it out of the sky. I killed 16 more of my teammates, killed the rest of my platoon. I had no idea that happened. That happened right on the other side of the hill we were fighting on. That's how loud it was on ours. I couldn't hear a helicopter getting blown out of the sky and roll down a mountain 10,000 feet. Well, everybody who knew about our mission was obviously classified top secret, everybody who knew about it was on that helo. So my team was still laying out there on those rocks. I was like, well, get me a map. You'll find Mikey here, Danny right here, and Axe laying right here. They found Mikey and Danny the next day. It took them 2 days to get them out of there. Helo couldn't land in there. Had a fast rope in there, under gunfire, lock them up, pull them out of there. They didn't find Axe. I got sent to Germany. I was in the hospital in Germany for probably 11 days, I think. I got a phone call. They found Axe. He was 3.5 miles from where I said he was. He lived through that RPG blast like I did, and crawled and walked blind. And when they found him, he had an empty pistol magazine laying next to him. He was still fighting the enemy until they took his head off. That's a true testament right there. Somebody who wouldn't give it up for nothing. He was a good dude. Well, I was in the hospital for a long time, man. A long time. A year. Off and on. I mean, 15 surgeries later, titanium spine, hand reconstructed, you name it. And all I wanted to do was go back, to re-engage. Because where I'm from, if you get whipped, man, when you heal up, you go after the dude who whipped you until you whip him. And, I mean, I was a Navy SEAL. I was a gunfighter. I wasn't going to quit just because I had a bad op. I was like, you got to send me back. So I went back to Iraq, into Ramadi in the Al Anbar province in 06, 07, which was the worst place on the planet. It was hell. I thought Afghanistan was bad. It was nothing like Ramadi. People dying, 2 to 3 people dying a day there. And we were on a raid, and I was coming up this stairwell. I was on the stairs up there, if you can only imagine. I mean, they're not like here. They don't have banisters or anything like that. RPG hit the wall right where I was standing and blew me off the stairs, and I fell 3 flights. And I had all my kit on, everything, and so I was weighing about 340, and I landed on my feet and blew my knees out completely. And that cost me my career. And I stuck it out. They kept wanting to send me home. I was like, I'm not going home without my team. I was just like, I'm not going back. I'll just sit here and do whatever. Type up mission sets, just, support the guys, whatever it is, but you're not sending me home. So I just sat there, and they had to carry me everywhere I had to go, and it was ridiculous. But when we got back, I remember the hardest thing that I ever had to face, not going through Billy's camp, Buds. I put 67 of my closest teammates in the ground since the war started. And been shot, fragged, everything's broken on me. Nothing compared to the day when they told me I couldn't be a Navy SEAL anymore. Because that's what I knew I was born to do. Just like everybody in here, you're born to play football, right? Just imagine what that's going to be like when someone tells you can't do it because you put out so hard that it cost you your career. Not because you weren't giving 100%. I could understand that if I was being a turd or something like that. But I gave them everything I had, and it cost me. And I just remember they sent me home to the ranch, and I call it the dark years because I beat my head against the wall for about 3 years trying to figure out what the heck I was going to do, man. All I was born and raised and trained to do my whole entire life was be a gunfighter. So it was tough, man. I definitely had to figure it out. I mean, I'm not weak or indigent or ignorant by any means. So, you always have to have a purpose. You wake up every morning, having to do something. You got to have a goal. That's one thing Billy would always tell us. He's always have a goal. Always set goals for yourself. Because the minute you don't is when you start to die. And one of my brother, his roommate, he's dead now. He died on last August on that helo crash where we lost 33 of our guys. He had a pretty cool thing that he would do, and I forgot about it, and I started doing it. He would write his goals out in his mirror from top to bottom. He's like, I know what I look like. I don't have to fix my hair. I'm a guy. What does that mean? He'd write his goals out on his mirror from top to bottom, and every time he would accomplish a goal, he'd erase it and put another one. That way, every time he looked in the mirror, he saw what he was supposed to become, not what he was. And that's what I just started doing. Started setting goals for myself again and got back up, started moving. But, when people bring me in here to talk, I don't have anything I try and push on anybody. Like I said, I'm not a football player. I can't talk on your level. I mean, you guys are completely different athletes than I was. But I do know about teamwork and what it's like to give everything you got until you die for them. That's what the ultimate goal is. You give everything you got. You don't let one guy down. And in the SEAL teams, each guy knows each guy's job. We know everything about everybody. I can tell you what they smell like in the dark after 2 days compared to 3. I know what they're going to do when something happens, when one thing goes wrong and this, that, and the other. I know how they move. I know what they sound like when they sleep. I know everything about them. And because of that enables us to do the things that we do. And you see it on TV every now and again. The media gets a hold of it, which is completely crap, It's supposed to be, shadow warriors. You know, you're not supposed to hear about it, but whatever. This is 2013. But that's the one thing I've learned, man. If you're in here as an individual, you might as well get up and leave right now. And if there is somebody in here like that, you know who you are, and so does the team. You got to be willing to give everything, not for yourself, but for everybody else in here. That's what'll make you great. That's what'll make you unbeatable. Because every day in here, playing football, someone's going to draw a line in front of you, and you're going to have to cross it. And it's either going to define you as a man, or just take a walk. Find something else to do. Because believe me, somebody else will take your spot. Always remember that hunger. Always remember that drive that brought you here. That's the biggest thing, that, especially with you guys, man, with all the media attention and everything you get thrown your way and everybody telling you that you're special and everything like that. And the SEAL teams, nobody tells you you're special. You're always a shitbag. Excuse my language. Every day, you're always a shitbag. That's what it is. You can always do better. We don't have that, and that's the beauty about it. That's what enables us to never quit. I can always do something better, and I can always do something better for this guy, and I'll always take him with me, or we're both going to die. And if you think about it like that, if you cross that mentality, as soon as you throw that helmet on, that's when the anonymity, the autonomy comes in. That's when you lose yourself and you become a team. You're not your individual anymore. Forget your name. That doesn't mean anything anymore. When you throw that helmet on, that uniform on, you're one unit, and you're willing to die for everybody in here. And I know everybody says it's a game and everything like that, but if you think about it in that mentality, you'd be surprised how far you're going to go, because that's the way we do it. Every time we step off the plane and whatever it is, as soon as we put a boot on the ground, look at left, look right, man, because one of those guys probably ain't going to be there. The bottom line is like, hey, man, I'm going to bring you back or I'm going to die with you. And that's just the way it is. That's teamwork. All right? Thanks for having me.